Crafting, upgrading your gear, and re-engineering it. These are systems that have been in Star Trek Online for quite a long time at this point, but like with so many things in Star Trek Online, the game does a pretty poor job of explaining how these systems work. So that's what we're going to be talking about in this video. I'm going to be going over the crafting system, I'm going to be going over the upgrading system, I'm going to be going over the re-engineering system, and how best to utilize each three of these systems to best outfit the gear that you want to put on your build. Crafting, or what Star Trek Online calls its research and development system, allows you to make various types of gear on your own. There's various kinds of space gear, ground gear, all kinds of stuff in here. A lot of the stuff in here isn't quite as valuable or powerful as what you would find in the lockboxes or even in the reputations, but there is some decent stuff in here that is worth noting that could be very much of value to certain players, especially to those of you who are running on a budget. But first, let's go over some of the basics of the R&D system, and for that, let's go over to this character instead, where I am still leveling up a lot of these schools. The R&D schools are basically different categories of what different types of gear are in. You can see here, the first one is the beams category. This is where you would find anything related to any sort of beam weapons for space. But if you go down here to the cannons section, this is where you're going to have cannons for space weapons, and then we got engineering, ground weapons, kit modules, yada yada yada. So you kind of get the idea of how this is all sorted into. You notice there are level designations for each one of these because you do have to level these up in order to gain access to certain types of gear and other things that you can craft. See here, this one is at level 15. That is where you have everything unlocked. Everything past level 15 is just increasing your crit chance further for types of gear. We'll get further into that later, but you can see here I'm able to craft omni beams, normal beam arrays, beam consoles, dual beam banks, consumables to buff my beams, even tech upgrades, which we'll get more into that later. But yeah, I have access to all of this at level 15, but see here in the cannons school, I have not leveled up at all. Here I only have access to the various basic kind of cannons, so the dual cannons, dual heavy cannons, single cannons, turrets, and some of the basic consoles, but I don't have any of the consumables that I can craft or some of the other stuff. And eventually you will be able to craft wide arc dual heavy cannons in the cannons school, but I don't have those unlocked yet. You unlock those at level 15. Leveling up your R&D schools is actually fairly easy, though it is somewhat time consuming. What you do is you go down to the bottom and you will find a research project. These will give a good amount of XP for that research school once you complete them. I've already got beams up to level 15, so let's go to one I am still leveling, which is, this is going to be kits and modules. So all we got to do is go down here, press begin, and then you will need to have a specific kind of duty officer in order to conduct the research project. For the research project, you need to have research lab scientists. Fortunately, I already have 3, which is good because you can only do 3 per day, so for each school. So I can max out on 3 of these, and you'll see they are in progress up here. I can do 3 more, but they can't be from the same school. So I can have 3 from kits and modules running at the same time, but if I wanted to do any more of them, they will have to be from a different school. So I could then do like 3 more of beams or 3 more of ground, or one of each. It doesn't really matter. Really, I can only do 2 because I don't have the 6th slot unlocked. And that is another thing to keep in mind too. You will not have all of your research and development slots unlocked right away. There will be certain requirements that you'll have to achieve in order to unlock them all. They'll be listed in the menu, so you'll be able to find them pretty easily. It'll really just be a matter of leveling up schools to a certain level. So like you got to get 1 to level 5, and then like 1 to level 10, or like 2 to level 5 or something like that. I don't remember the exact requirements. I'll put them up on the screen when I can find them. But yeah, it's just, gradually unlocking them as you can. And then the last one is the big one that you unlock at the Fleet Research Lab, which that one requires dilithium and fleet credits, and quite a lot of them too. So that one's going to be a little while before I unlock that one on this character. Now, there is a way to speed up this leveling process a little bit. If you go over here to the Fleet Research Lab, there are 2 contacts you want to talk to. This first one over here will give you a duty officer assignment that will give you bonus experience points for your R&D schools. So you go over here, you can complete this this duty officer assignment, and you will get an extra 2,000 experience points that can be applied to any one of those schools. All you got to do is just click begin, and there it goes. Just let that go. It takes like it takes 18 hours to complete, so this is going to be one of those daily missions that you can do on your daily runs. The other one is over here in the same room. Over here, accept the mission from this guy. This one will give you some extra experience for a specific school. So select whichever one you want some bonus XP for. I'm going to go with kits again because that's the one I'm still working on this character. Then we just go into the R&D tab, and this one will apply as a Fleet Research Lab project, which should show up near the top. And for this one, you gotta. I don't think you need a specific duty officer for this one. I think you just need whichever one it'll auto select, and then just let it play out. Yeah. This one finishes it off in a few seconds. Bam, got some extra XP for my kits and modules, and then we complete the mission over here. The nice thing about this one too is that it also gives dilithium, energy credits, and some high-end crafting materials too. So this is a really nice mission to be doing daily. And of course, it does have a 20-hour cooldown, so you're going to be doing this once a day. To create certain types of gear or other items in the crafting system, you do need certain types of duty officers. Like if we go up here, let's go craft up any kind of beam, you need to have an energy weapon officer in order to craft any kind of beam weapon out of the system. But this is just like a standard beam. There's nothing really that special about it. But once you unlock the Omni beams at level 15, then the requirements get a little more specific, because not only do you need for that one, you can have either a fabrication engineer or an energy weapon officer, but they also need to have an R&D school training thing, this thing over here. So you are going to need some of these. Not every duty officer has an R&D school training thing, so you're going to have to keep an eye out for that. They do drop randomly, either from duty officer packs. You can also get them here on the academy. Just go over here to the duty officer assignment thing. I don't know what this building's called, but just go up here. Then we talk to the personnel officer, submit personnel request, and that you can request R&D assistance. This will give you a duty officer assignment. It does cost 1,000 dilithium, but you will get a random bunch of duty officers that will have R&D specializations. You could also get duty officers with R&D specializations from various fleet holdings. Sometimes they're random, sometimes they are specific, but one of the problems with that is that it doesn't tell you what R&D specialization they have until you actually pick up the duty officer, at least not in the game. But if you go over to the Stowe wiki, that usually has a better article for telling you what the duty officers have for R&D stuff. So if you're ever looking for specific, especially high-end R&D duty officers, check out the wiki for the various fleet holdings. That should give you an idea of what to look for. Okay, I actually just found the article on the wiki. So yeah, these are for the K-13 fleet holding. These are the ones that aren't random, so you'll actually be able to pick up these specific duty officers directly from the vendor on the fleet holding. Yeah, it'll tell you right here the name of the duty officer, what type of duty officer they are, and what sort of R&D specialization they have, as well as what type of skill they have, though these skills really aren't the most useful compared to others, but they're not terrible either. But that's going to be up to you. That's going to be more about your ship build than anything else. Right now we're just talking about the R&D stuff here. That's what matters here. Apparently these consultants don't have an R&D skill, so that's something to keep an eye out for. But yeah, the rest of these, it'll tell you what they have and what they are. Now, one thing you'll need to make sure you have for your R&D projects is crafting components. Now, some of these are just like the basic components that you can pick up playing, certain missions or patrols. A lot of this stuff you can just pick up by playing pretty much any aspect of the game. A lot of it drops randomly from you're doing your endeavors. So, and if you're ever for some reason short on any of it, you can buy it off the exchange really easily. You can see I have just like piles of some of this stuff because I've been playing this game for so long. But yeah, a lot of this R&D stuff really easy to pick up, but you'll see in certain projects where you need to make you'll need to make certain components which will be made from these dropped components. So then you can just kind of go over here. If you're ever lacking any of these, you can just kind of click on them, go directly to them, and then just kind of click how many you need, and then you can start the project. That will start constructing them. So it's meant to be sort of like a step-by-step process with some of this gear. And yeah, just go back to it, and yeah, just keep going in there until you have all you need. If you're ever missing any, it'll highlight in red, so you'll know what you're lacking or whatever. If you ever want to keep an eye on like what crafting materials you have, you can always find them easily. Like I said, they're right here in your inventory. Just, you know, open up your inventory and hit the R&D tab, and that will show you all of your crafting materials. Now, you can actually purchase more crafting materials in the C-Store. I don't really know why you would want to, honestly, because they are very easy to find in the game, but if you ever want to, they're right here. Research and development packs, you can get a bunch of these. You can get a bunch of crafting materials out of these. If you ever do decide to do this, though, I would wait for a promo event, because, you know, during Infinity Ship Promotion bundles, these bundles turn into Infinity Promotion research and development packs, which have a small chance to drop a promo ship. So if you ever wanting to buy some of these for any reason, like if you ever need to buy R&D materials, at least wait for a promo event. But as I said, it's really easy to pick up these things naturally through the game. I don't think you'll ever need to buy R&D packs for the sake of needing R&D materials. Now let's go over each different school, because each one comes with certain types of gear that you can't get anywhere else. Well, except for the exchange. A lot of this is sellable on the exchange, but a lot of it is made right here in the R&D system. So first off, in the beam school, once you hit level 15, you'll be able to craft omni beams, which aren't exclusive to the R&D schools, because, I mean, you can get omni beams out of the lockboxes, but getting omni beams out of the lockboxes is actually fairly rare, and while you can also buy those on the exchange, they're very expensive on the exchange, especially the high value ones that, you know, usually the ones with either good procs or just with visuals that you'll probably like. So being able to craft an omni right out of the R&D menu is really valuable for budget players, because, you know, it's easy to get omni, and plus you can sell these crafted omnis on the exchange. So again, for budget players, you can easily go that route instead and just buy one off the exchange. They're really not that expensive. They're usually like a little bit over 1 million EC, which may be a lot to you, maybe a little to you. It depends on, you know, how invested you are in the game. But yeah, that is an option to you. So yeah. For beams, it's omni beams. For cannons, it is the wide-angle dual-heavy cannons, which aren't nearly as essential as an omni beam, in my opinion, for cannon builds. But if your piloting isn't great, a dual-heavy cannon would probably be pretty valuable to you. Oh, and this will actually be a good opportunity for me to demonstrate something for you. Level 15 is when you will have everything unlocked in the school, but it maxes out at level 20, and I'll show you why. See, if I start up a wide-arc dual-heavy project that I have a 100% chance of getting it at very rare quality, but it is at 0% chance for getting to ultra rare. That's because this is at level 15, because any levels after level 15 will further increase your chance of getting a higher quality rarity. So if I go over here to my beams, which I have maxed out to level 20, select an omni beam, I have a 32% chance of getting an ultra rare, which I can further increase with catalysts. Of course, these catalysts, they usually drop only out of the R&D packs from the C-Store. I think there are some other ways to get those. I don't really remember how. These things just sit in my inventory constantly because I hardly ever remember to use them. But these can further increase your chance of rarity. But it's all RNG anyway, so they may or may not work anyway. So it's always hard to gauge whether or not they're working. And that's why I always forget to use them, because it doesn't matter all that much anyway. Anyway, moving on to engineering. At level 15, they will be able to craft the conductive RCS accelerators, which are highly overrated in my opinion. What they do is they give you basically the same amount of buffed turn rate that you would get from a normal RCS, plus an extra stat buff from a random mod, which you cannot re-engineer, by the way. But they also have an additional effect where when you receive a heal, you'll get even more turn rate, to the point where it gets up to close to like 70 to 80% total, which is just an excessive amount of turn rate, because keep in mind, it doesn't increase your inertia rating either, so you're at that point you're just doing tail spins like an idiot. So if you ever need an RCS console to increase your turn rate, don't bother going to the conductive RCSs. Go to the Discovery Reputation and get yourself a Bellum RCS, because this will increase your crit chance a little bit too, along with your turn rate. So at least you are then buffing one of your offensive stats as well, instead of getting even more turn rate, which really isn't going to help you all that much. I've been on this rant so many times and people still fight me on it, but trust me, the Bellum RCS is better than this thing. Anyway, moving on. Ground weapons, this will allow you to craft the TR-116B. These, I've always found these weapons to be kind of overrated, but I think that's mostly just because I don't like sniper rifles. I've always preferred, well, the Tommy rifle, or the Tommy gun, because it has a much better spread than this thing, because, you know, AoEs are always much better on ground. Or really in anywhere in Star Trek Online. Honestly, single shot stuff, just anywhere, just isn't good. But anyway, the TR-116, it's still okay, but even then, I think it's still not that great, especially when you take into account the buffs to the remodulators that were introduced in the last big story update. So it's like you can get by even fighting the Borg with just like any energy weapon, because you know, you get that special remodulator from the last episode, and it's just like I don't find these worth it anymore. But I mean, if you like it for Space Barbie's sake, there you go. You can craft them here once you get to level 15 of ground weapons, or you can just buy them on the exchange. And you know, these are still in demand, so if you're looking to make a little bit of profit, you can just make these on your own and then sell them on the exchange, which that's really true with all of these. Because none of this stuff is bound. For the kit modules, you get there's actually 6 different items that are unique to these. These are passive kit modules that provide various buffs. These 2 engineering ones provide some passive medical field generator effects. This one is a shield reinforcement field. This one's, yeah, we got some science ones. We got some tactical ones. Honestly, none of these are very good. I would not bother with any of these passive ones. There are plenty of kit modules that are better in the game that you can find either through the lockboxes or the exchange, or even through the reputation system. Keep in mind, the summer event is going to be coming up fairly soon. There are quite a few really good kit modules just available through that event alone. So don't bother with these. Go get ball lightning or something. Projectiles, this will give you the particle emission plasma torpedo. These are actually, correct me if I'm wrong on this one, these are actually part of the EPG meta. I know these have been a part of EPG builds for a very long time, and that's because of the particle emission, the plasma particle emission cloud that they generate, which is basically just an extra source of damage over time effect, which, you know, EPG builds thrive on damage over time stuff. So of course these are going to be really valuable for those. The big headache with these, though, is that again, you cannot re-engineer them. So getting these particle emission torpedoes with good mods on them is going to take a bit of a grind, because you're going to have to constantly, because you can't re-engineer them. So if you get one and you want better mods on it, you're just going to have to make another one. For the science one, we get the exotic particle field exciter, which this is another thing that's really good for EPG builds, because it's basically just a straight up buff to your exotic particle generator skill, which that's where your exotic damage is going to be buffed with. So you're definitely going to want one of these for any kind of science build. And again, with these, they do have an extra modifier on them, but again, that modifier cannot be re-engineered. So if you want one with a better modifier on it, you're gonna have to keep making more and more and more of them until you get the one you want. And then lastly, in the shields school, we get the hypercapacitor shield array, which these are weird. Apparently they have like a little ability on them that provides bonus damage to your energy weapons, which sounds really good. But one, it has a cooldown of a minute 30, which that's a long cooldown, and there's no way to reduce that I'm aware of. But additionally, it's kind of reliant on the tying into your shields. So as long as your shields don't go down to a certain level, I think it's like 20%, you will maintain the damage buff to your energy weapons. I think it's for like 30 seconds maximum. But yeah, but if your shields go down to 20% or lower, then the effect just drops. But even more frustrating about that is that while the buff is active for your energy weapons, your shields are also immune to heals. So it's basically just completely reliant on the capacity of the shield, which that's the headache with these things. So ultimately, you're really just better off going with the discovery shield, because that'll give you some extra damage against enemy shields with your energy weapons constantly. That is always going to be have a chance to trigger. There's no like stupid requirements on it like with this capacitor. Like, honestly, I am kind of interested. I've never actually seen anyone play around with any of these, so I'm kind of interested in trying it out just to see how it is. But just reading the description on it, I'm not overly impressed with it, and you'll probably just be better off with going with the Discovery Reputation Shield. But yeah, if anyone knows better, if anyone's actually played around with these, yeah, let me know. What do you think of these things? Because I've never actually had any hands-on experience with one. Now, you've probably noticed also in a couple of these schools, you can see the old Aegis set. You can find the shield here in the shield school, then the deflectors here in the science school, and the engines were in the engine school. Now, for these, you need a specific type of duty officer, more specific than just like the basic projects require, because you need one that is actually trained in R&D Aegis. Now, apparently, I didn't know this until I looked it up, there are only 3 duty officers in the entire game that are trained to craft the Aegis set. The first one is, this is the one that I was showing you in the game, the Gumer, I'm not going to try to pronounce that. This Ferengi guy, he works on, he's able to craft the Aegis stuff. He was a free giveaway a long time ago, back, it was one of the old Tribble rewards from being able to test out the upcoming season update, I think. No, automatically rewarded to characters who maxed out the old crafting system prior to season 9.5. Okay, yeah, so it was an old event reward apparently for when the current crafting system was introduced. But these days, he can be rewarded to Delta recruits and temporal agents for completing the research level 1 R&D school objective. So if you're wanting to craft the Aegis set, your best option is going to be to do that on a Delta recruit or a temporal agent recruit. So because you can get those for free. Apparently this guy can drop from other sources, like the request R&D assistance mission that I showed you guys on the Academy, which you can find out in Starfleet Academy, the Klingon Academy, or in the new Romulus Command section, because there's no Romulan Academy. But yeah, he can drop from those. Apparently he can drop from... No, he can't drop from Federation Duty Officer back. So yeah, those are your 2 options. You can either chance it with the request R&D assistance, or guarantee it with the Delta recruitment or temporal recruit agents. Of course, these recruitment events are only up certain times of the year, but they do show up fairly regularly, and they stay out for a good long while too. The second one is Elder Jatat Talor. This one's it's basically the same story with the Ferengi guy over here, but this one is exclusive to Jem'Hadar Gamma recruit characters. So this got to be a Gamma recruit, not just any Jem'Hadar. It's got to be a Gamma recruit, and this one is only rewarded upon achieving level 15 of any R&D school, and that's probably because this Ferengi guy, he's only a very rare quality, whereas this guy is no, I'm sorry. This guy's rare. This guy's very rare. Purple is very rare. And rarity is a factor there, because that will increase the chance of the project having a critical effect, and that will increase the quality of the item that you're trying to craft. So really your best option as like a free option in order to craft the Aegis set is to level up a Gamma recruit, so that way you can get the very rare Doff instead of getting the just the rare guy here. There is one more duty officer. This is Professor Jefferson Hawk, and this guy, he is a bit harder to track down apparently, because it literally says right here, it is not clear which are the exact source Hawk can be obtained from. Apparently he can drop randomly from rare duty officer assignments, apparently, but it's an extremely low chance. Reassignment taps into the same. Okay, apparently, yeah, he can drop from various sources, but apparently there's some speculation on whether or not how much that is true. So yeah, this guy exists, but getting him is going to be a huge pain in the ass. Honestly, you're better off just leveling up a Gamma recruit. But of course, the Aegis stuff is not bound to character or your account. You can sell that stuff on the exchange, which that's really kind of the big appeal to getting these duty officers. It's not so you can build the Aegis stuff for yourself. It's so you can build it and then sell it on the exchange, because these are specific duty officers that you can't get just anywhere. They do have a certain kind of rarity to them, but despite that, the Aegis set doesn't sell for a lot. So I mean, it's a small profit if you're just selling them on the exchange. But if you're looking to get them for yourself, again, just check out the exchange. You can probably buy them for yourself, just like all the other gear we've talked about in this. Something else unique to the crafting system is that they will actually have a chance to give you certain special mods to your ship weapons. So beams, cannons, torpedoes, mines. There are special mods that you will be able to get through the crafting system that you can't get anywhere else. Specifically, these are snare, thrust, pen, over. What else? There's rapid for cannons. For torpedoes, you can get spread. And mines don't get anything. So okay, mines just get snare, thrust, and pen. But yeah, now these are interesting because they do offer certain buffs to your weapons that you can't get anywhere else. But the problem is that most of these buffs aren't very good, and the big problem with them is that they are a modifier, so they will take up a modifier slot that you would normally use for like damage or crit severity. And the other big problem with that is that you can't re-engineer that special crafted mod. Okay, I can't find the article where I found the actual descriptions for each modifier, but I did write it down earlier in the script, so here we go. Yeah, pen gives you, it ignores 10 armor rating, which pen is probably the most useful of any of these because it ignores part of the armor rating, so it'll do a bit extra damage to your enemy target. The problem with it is that you can overcome that just by any sort of debuff ability. So like just having attack pattern beta on your build will just completely make this irrelevant, and ended up being that it'll be of more benefit to have a damage or a crit D mod instead. So the pen is okay if you're lacking a huge amount of debuff on there, but again, it's pretty easy to get debuff on your build, so I just don't think it's worth it. And then the rest of these are just useless because with over, it gives you a 2.5% chance to trigger an upgraded beam attack, which it'll function like the old version of beam overload, where it's just like a single heavy shot, which, I mean, it's kind of neat, but again, it's only a 2.5% chance, so it's basically just a proc, which is not great. And additionally, I haven't tested this myself, but I would worry that would mess with my firing cycle, especially if I were using beam overload. I would worry if that would like interrupt my firing cycle because especially if you're using something to extend your beam overload, like the starship trait super weapon ingenuity. Triggering this, would that just interrupt that entire firing cycle of it? Because that would be really bad for your DPS if it did. Same with rapid fire. It gives a 2.5 chance to trigger rapid fire on all your cannons for 2 seconds. Only 2 seconds. So yeah, I would have the same concern. Like, is that going to interrupt the normal firing cycle for my normal extended rapid fire? So that's just detrimental to the build. And yeah, there's the argument of, well, what if I'm not using those traits? But even then, just the normal using the actual ability itself is still going to be more beneficial than relying on these small chances of getting the ability. So it's not worth it. And then of course there's snare and thrust, which can either debuff enemy speed or increase your own speed by 5%, which that's not a lot. And and then there's spread, which you can get for torpedoes, which again it's a small chance of getting torpedo spread, which probably not as detrimental as these because they don't fire nearly as often. But again, I would worry about like, what if I'm already using torpedo spread? Would this like screw with that or something, or like I would be shocked if they actually stacked with each other. But even then, it's only a 7.5% chance. It's a very small chance for you to actually be able to get that additional spread if you ever get it at all. So it's not worth it. Like none of these are worth it. So if you ever there's the additional headache of that you can't re-engineer them. So if you ever get a weapon that you've crafted that has any of these mods, throw it on the exchange or just salvage it for crafting materials, because none of them are worth it in the current state of the game. Now, as you can see, there are 2 more tabs in here I haven't gone over yet. First is called Officer Training. This one is fairly straightforward. It is where you can train specialization qualifications as well as other bridge officer abilities for your bridge officers. Now, not every single ability is going to be in this menu. It's mainly like the high level versions, so like the level 3 versions of any versions of these abilities. So like the max level versions that you can get, a lot of those have to be crafted, and this is where you can get them. For the specialization abilities, in order to craft them, you just have to level up that specific specialization for your character. So you complete the intel track, then you get all of the intel abilities, or at least all the level 3 intel abilities that you can craft. But same with all the other specialization versions. So the America worker, pilot, whatever you're looking for, you can find it in there. All you need is a personal access data device or pad. You can craft those in here too. Just get one of those. Each one of these abilities will require one of those, and then boom, there you go. Now, outside of the specializations, there are abilities that you will be able to craft that are specific to your class, your character class. Since this character is an engineer, I have several engineering abilities that I can craft. Now, I can't craft every single version of every single engineering ability, not even just like the level 3 versions. Like, there are certain engineering abilities I do not have access to, and that is because of my skills. So which abilities you have access to craft are going to depend on what you picked in the skill tree. I wouldn't go out of my way to specifically pick my skill tree in order to craft certain abilities. I would maybe set up an alt to do that, but I definitely wouldn't do that on my main, because that is definitely going to end up being something that's going to screw with your DPS. But anyway, that's going to be true for tactical and science as well. You're not going to have access to all of them, and I wouldn't go out of my way to set up a skill tree that will unlock specific abilities for you to craft. I might do that on an alt. I mean, it could be a good way to generate some extra cash, or generate some extra EC in the game, because I mean, people are always going to be looking for like copies of Fire at Will 3 or Beam Overload 3. So the ability to craft those abilities would be pretty useful for the sake of selling them on the exchange. So if you want to go that route, you can, but it's not something I would bother doing on a main character, unless your skill tree just happens to give you the ability to craft those abilities anyway. And it's not exclusive to tactical characters. Like Gravity Well 3 is always useful, so science characters would be able to craft those. I mean, engineers get emergency powered weapons 3. It's always pretty helpful. Additionally, there are a handful of abilities that you can craft that you get as episode rewards. One of them being like emit unstable warp bubble here. This is an episode reward. I'm blanking on the name of the episode. This one you will be able to unlock. Doesn't matter what class you are. This is just an episode reward, so you'll have access to this regardless. This ability is actually kind of nice because it is a non-conventional systems trigger. So if you're running like a cruiser with a lot of engineering seating, this can be kind of nice to have as another uncon trigger. But yeah, a handful of these abilities are rewards for episodes, so that is another way to get those. But there's not a lot, so I wouldn't worry too much about it. And because it's an episode reward, I mean, you'll run across it eventually. In order to get these versions of the abilities, you have to go to a bridge officer trainer. You can find a bridge officer trainer at any of the home bases. I'm here at the one on the Deep Space Nine's ops section, but I mean, there's one on ESD, there's one on Kronos, there's one on New Romulus. I think there's one on the Delta Quadrant Command too, and in one or two other places too, but you can always find one at one of the home bases. But yeah, just go into there. Then you'll have all the lower to mid-level abilities of every single ability here. So you're not gonna get like any of the max level versions of them, but like always the versions 1 and 2 of any abilities, you'll be able to find them here at the bridge officer vendors, or bridge officer trainers, I should say. So like, say I want to train a character in, here we'll go with Miracle Worker, then I would need to find the Miracle Worker abilities. So the first one is Throw Nanite Canister. That's a ground ability, so I would need to buy Throw Nanite Canister, and then keep going down the list. So then I would need Tactical Mishap, then I would need Overload Power Cells 1, and then Visor Emulation Overload 2. It's always going to be 4 ground abilities and 4 space abilities. So then once you get those, then it moves on to needing Destabilize Warp Core 1, Overwhelm Regulators 1, Deploy gravitic induction platform 1, and exceed rated limits 2. And then once you have all of those, plus a pad, then you will be able to craft one of these qualifications. Then you'll be able to teach it to a bridge officer so they can learn any of the miracle worker abilities that you teach it, or you can just sell it on the exchange, which again, that's another good way to make some easy EC, because people are always needing qualifications, and a lot of people are too lazy to go over here to a bridge officer trainer and manually put these together, because admittedly, it is a tedious process. A lot of you probably fell asleep while I was reading off the abilities. So, yeah, it's annoying. It's a little tedious, but it's a good way to make some extra EC if you're wanting to go that route. The last tab in the R&D menu is the Special Projects tab. A lot of this is stuff that really doesn't fit into the other tabs, and also stuff that these are the components for the advanced consoles. I don't know why crafting those ended up in here, especially when the advanced consoles themselves are in their individual schools, because like the engineering ones you can find right here in the engineering school, and then the science ones you can find in the science school, there and there. So I don't know why the components to craft them are in the special projects thing, but whatever. But yeah, this is where you can find those. Additionally, in here you can also find the project for the Omega upgrades. Now, the Omega upgrades are a special type of tech upgrade, which I'm going to get more into tech upgrades later, because I mean, you've probably seen in the other schools there are various types of tech upgrades that you will unlock access to over the course of leveling up your R&D schools. A lot of these aren't very good. I'll get to more into that later. But there are special types of upgrades called Omega Tech upgrades, which you can get by smashing together these Omega molecule component things. The big pain in the butt with these, though, is that you can only obtain these Omega Trace components during the anniversary event, which the anniversary event only comes around once a year. And the other big pain in the butt is that you have to play a certain mini game in order to obtain these traces. God, is that thing? It's so boring. It is so annoying to play. It's that little Guitar Hero-esque mini game where you have to slide the little thing up and down in order to catch the Omega molecules as they slide to the right, and it's so awful. And the value for these things really went down too after they made the components character bound. Was character or account bound? I forget which. But when they did that, it completely killed the market on them, so you can't even bother to sell them anymore. I get why they made them bound, is because there was a huge botting problem, but of course their solution was to just ruin the market on these things to fix that. So yeah, there are some neat upgrades. They've introduced a couple different variants since the introduction of these. There's this one that focuses on improving the quality chance of a tech upgrade. So this is if you're really trying to get something to epic that's being really stubborn, this one can be kind of good, but a lot of dilithium for just one of these. Then there's this one, this one is mostly focused on tech points. So if you really wanted to level up a piece of gear, this one's good. And then there is just the base version, which doesn't it gives a moderate amount of tech points, but gives also a fairly standard amount of, well, it's a bit more than standard. It's ×4 quality chance, which is actually even better than the Phoenix upgrades. Phoenix upgrades only give ×2 quality chance upgrade. But again, the ability to pick up these crafting mods only comes around once a year, and the minigame to play them is so unbelievably tedious and boring. No one wants to do it anymore. So the Omega Tech upgrades kind of go ignored because the Phoenix upgrades are so much easier to obtain. Okay, let's talk a bit more about upgrading, because again, this is another thing that's very easy to do. You just want to right click on whatever gear you want to upgrade and then click upgrade item, and then you will need tech upgrades. Probably the best tech upgrades you can get in the game are the Phoenix tech upgrades, and one of the reasons that these are some of the best is because of one, they're very powerful for upgrading your stuff, and two, because of their availability. Because all you need is, why isn't that opening? Okay, apparently The Phoenix store does not open on player bridges for some reason. That's odd. But anyway, the easiest way to get Phoenix tech upgrades is through the Phoenix store. You can get just use the rare tokens, and you can get the Phoenix tech upgrades. And you can get Phoenix upgrades just by purchasing the Phoenix prizes with dilithium. So open up the open up the dilithium store. Phoenix prize packs right there. You can get a bunch of them. You can get 10 for 40k or a single one for 4,500. Like I said, there are other tech upgrades you can get. There's the Omega tech upgrades, which aren't bad. Here's a good comparison between the basic ones and the Phoenix tech upgrades. Like the Omega ones have a bit less tech points, so it's going to take them longer to actually get your gear up to Mark 15 with these, but they do have a much higher quality improvement chance, so it's going to be easier to get them to Epic. So it's actually, if you're trying to get something to Epic, it's not a bad idea to start with these. But then finish up with the tech upgrade, with the Phoenix tech upgrades, or go with the Mark Omega tech upgrade, which will give you nothing but tech points, but no quality improvement chance. But again, like I said, these are only available during certain times of year because you have to get them with the Omega Trace things, and also the Omega Trace. The mini game to get the Omega Trace things is just unbelievably boring and tedious, and I hate it. I hate it so much. It needs to be completely reworked on how you get these trace things. If anyone wants to take, if anyone at Cryptic wants them to, if it wants us to take these things seriously. Sorry, that's another rant I should probably say for another video. Oh, it's also worth noting, most tech upgrades you have to spend dilithium in order to use them. So like if I use any of these, I would have to spend a certain amount of dilithium in order to actually use that tech upgrade onto a piece of any item that I'd be upgrading. It's the same with the other tech upgrades too. These, you have to spend a certain amount of dilithium in order to be able to use that tech upgrade on that item. With the Phoenix upgrades, they don't have any dilithium cost, at least to use them, but I think that's just because you already have to pay for them with dilithium, because the only way to pick up Phoenix prize packs is through the dilithium store, so you're already paying dilithium that way. So technically the Phoenix tech upgrades have no dilithium cost, but they have to be purchased with dilithium, so it's kind of a lateral move, so it really doesn't make any difference, but it's worth noting. Now, there are also ultimate tech upgrades, which, like their name suggests, these will just immediately get an item up to Epic. Just no cost whatsoever. They don't have a dilithium cost. They will just get everything up to Epic right away. These are most commonly obtained through certain events. Cryptic puts out a bunch of events every year for Star Trek Online. I think we've got a Red Alert event coming up soon, which that will reward one of these ultimate tech upgrades. So if you've got any gear that you want to get to Epic, then I would definitely recommend playing that, because these ultimate tech upgrades, they can be nice to have. Okay, I've gotten sidetracked again, so let's get into how upgrading actually works. You want to do right click, hit upgrade, and then it will bring you into the upgrade menu, which you can also access just by hitting this button down here. So that'll bring you right in there. Then you want to select the item, and this is where you will select which tech upgrade you want to use. I only have the Phoenix and the ultimate tech upgrades. Whichever ones you want to use, it's going to depend on you. Sometimes it's going to depend on which ones you have, but as I've already stated a few times in this video, the Phoenix tech upgrades are the easiest to get because they're just right there in the Phoenix store. Dilithium is very easy to obtain because you can obtain it by doing literally anything in the game. And yeah, they're the best ones, both in how much they give and how easy they are to obtain. Once you do that, each tech upgrade you apply will apply a certain amount of technology points. However many you apply is going to determine the amount you apply is going to determine how close you get to the next level. So this discovery shield here, I've got this at Mark 12 right now because I just made it. So apply, boom, there we go. Now we're halfway there, and finalize it. Boom, it's at Mark 13. Claim it. There we go. We've just upgraded that to a Mark 13 shield. And now if we want to do it again, we got to keep going, then it's going to take more points. So the higher the mark, the more technology points it's going to take to upgrade that item, which makes sense. It is constantly scaling upward. So getting to Mark 15 is going to take even more technology points than it would be to get to Mark 14. However, remember how I talked about wanting to make things at Mark 2 to increase their ability to be leveled up? Let's go over that for a little bit, because see, at Mark 2, it doesn't take a lot of tech points to get it to the next mark. So we've got, we've only got to get up to 104 tech points, but we've got 34,000 to work with this upgrade. So we hit apply, and it just keeps going up until it's exhausted the number of tech points. So it's actually going to go up several levels. Well, it's going to go up several mark levels before we've exhausted those tech points from that one tech upgrade. And as you can see, the quality chance is still consistent. It's not great because, I mean, it's only 5%, but it is still going up. And now we've exhausted all of it. So yeah, we've used up all of that. Oh, that got critical. Okay. Yeah, still no quality chance upgrade. And the higher the higher mark level you get, the lower your chance to improve your quality is going to be. So it is still very RNG based, but to increase your chances of upgrading your gear's quality, start it at Mark 2. I really wish that had actually hit. It would have been great for the demonstration. But yeah, there's not much else you can do to further increase that chance, except by applying catalyst to do that. But you can only get catalysts out of the R&D packs, which you can get at the C-store. So yeah, if you don't have them already, I wouldn't go out of my way for those. But yeah, it's not going to be that big of a deal. Now, a comment I get a lot on my build videos is that, there are always people are always remarking about how much gold gear I always have on my gear. How much gear I have at Epic. How am I supposed to be able to get to that? And it's like, the thing that always bugs me about it is that you don't need to focus on getting to Epic right away, because most of your gear's power is going to come from its mark level rather than its quality level, because the quality is just supposed to be a bit of an extra boost on top of everything else. But what is really going to determine the power of your item is what mark it's at. And honestly, that's a good thing too, because it's a lot easier to get an item up to Mark 15 than it is to increase its quality. So if you're ever focusing on upgrading a bunch of gear, just focus on getting it to Mark 15 first, and then worry about... Oh, got lucky there. That upgraded to Ultra Rare, but I guarantee you it's not going to upgrade to Epic before I get this to Mark 15. There we go. See, Mark 15. So now, just stop right there. Don't worry about going on. Just find the next thing you need to upgrade, get that to Mark 15, then keep going. And then just, keep building up upgrades. Wait for upgrade weekends. There are special events that will further increase your the effectiveness of your tech upgrades on items. Keep an eye out for those during events, stuff like that. But yeah, just don't focus on getting to Epic right away, because it's not going to be as nearly as impactful as just getting to Mark 15 is going to be. So just prioritize that first. Getting an item to Epic, or really just increasing its quality, all it really does is just add an extra modifier to that item. At least for like weapons and your core gear and stuff like that. For consoles, it just adds it doesn't really add another modifier. It just adds a little extra power to it, but not nearly as much as the base mark scaling level. So but yeah, for items like weapons, it just adds an extra modifier to the item, which what a modifier is just an extra stat buff that applies to that specific item. So with this phaser array, I've got 2 bits of accuracy. Yeah, 2 bits of accuracy, some critical hit chance, a little extra damage, as well as some extra accuracy and damage off of there. So yeah, it's kind of all over the place there. Now if we look at this, which is only at very rare, I've only got accuracy, damage, and arc, because this is an omni beam, so of course it has arc. But yeah, so increasing the quality of this omni beam, it would just give me extra modifiers, which really only do a little bit. Speaking of modifiers, let's go over how to change those. That's called Reengineering, and oh. There we go. Sometimes it won't let you open up the Reengineering thing unless it's unequipped. I don't know why. It's very weird. But yeah, if you're ever having trouble Reengineering or upgrading a thing, try unequipping it first and then doing it. So this is Reengineering. It's sort of a kind of a roulette kind of thing. What you want to do is unlock the mods that you want to change. Then it's going to be kind of it's just going to randomize the mods, and then you just keep the ones you want. This is a science character, so I want my weapon modifiers set for critical damage, which I got 2 hits of. So now I lock those, and then just keep going. Oh, got another crit D. That's nice. Probably gonna run out of salvage before I get all the ones I want. That's this one right here. Salvage is a special currency that you can gain by salvaging items. And what you do to salvage an item is you just right-click it. Do I have anything that's salvageable? There we go. Yeah, just right-click it and then salvage. That item will then disappear, but you will gain some salvage as well as some crafting mats. You can mass salvage a bunch of items, but you want to be careful doing that. You want to make sure that you are using protected status on anything you don't want to have salvaged, because I've seen people do this before. I've got protected status on these, but if I turn it off, now it's in there, and if I hit salvage on all these, it will salvage this ISO mag, which I don't want to just throw away. So be sure to always have protected status on when you don't want something to just magically disappear, because sometimes you will click the wrong button and then things will disappear and then you will be upset. Let's see how far I can get this thing. Oh, got another crit D. This you can see on this row on the right, this one has 2 mods on it, because this is the mod that you get when you upgrade your item to epic. So that's the last mod you get. So this is going to be 2. Got it. Crit D damage, you cannot double up the epic mod, so you can't get like crit hit and crit hit. So it's only going to be crit D. It's only going to be like one thing or another thing. And for this one, I want crit D and damage, because those are going to be the 2 that are most beneficial to my build. Like I said, this is a science character, so I wanted everything at crit D, because they benefit most from crit D if we're going with a weapon type build on this character, which I am. So yeah, everything's at crit D. Engineers are the same way. They benefit most from crit D on their weapons. Tactical characters, they are better off with all damage, though. So you would want the DMG mod here. But the epic mod would still remain the same, though. You would still want crit D damage on the epic mod, but the rest of them for a tactical should be at damage. But for science and engineering characters, you want crit D across the board. Don't ask me why, it's a math thing. For tactical players, I've heard it's because of like the extra crit chance and crit severity they get with attack pattern alpha. Like I said, this is all old stuff. I don't know if anyone's actually like revisited those things too, because I remember Augie once saying with how easy it is to get crit severity these days and crit chance, and how easy it is to get those stats, I remember him theorizing that it probably wouldn't be that long before crit D would end up being more beneficial on tactical players as well. But yeah, I don't know how much of that is true yet or not, because I mean, math is not my strong suit, so I'm going to leave that to smarter people than me. So yeah, I got that beam finished, which that is really nice for me. However, I still got 6 more I gotta go to, and then I still haven't even re-engineered. Can I re-engineer? No, this is the prolonged torpedo. Worth noting, not every item in the game can be re-engineered. Certain unique items like this cannot be re-engineered. I really wish they'd go back and adjust some of these old items so they could be re-engineered. But yeah, it's obviously not high on their to-do list. But yeah, so not every item can be re-engineered, but some can be. Now, it's not just weapons that can be re-engineered. You can also do like your core gear as well. This is a deflector array, so I would probably want this re-engineered to have more EPG on it, depending on the build. More control X. If you wanted the control build, more control X would be more beneficial too. You know, shield cap and shield heal really aren't going to make much of a difference unless unless I'm making a shield tank or whatever. But I'm definitely not doing them on this build. But yeah, it's really just going to depend on what sort of build you're making. That's going to determine what mods you want on the rest of your gear. And then of course there's the ISO bags and the other advanced consoles, which are famous for having just an obscene number of mod options. It's absolutely insane how many they put on here, and how many of them are absolutely worthless to this type of gear too. It drives me nuts, but I've gone on that rant enough times already. But yeah, yeah, it just goes to show you can also re-engineer consoles, but again, what mods you want on them is going to depend on what sort of build you're running. So like this Polaron mod actually isn't going to be of any benefit to this build whatsoever, because this is a phaser build. So yeah, obviously I would want to either re-engineer this. Honestly, I'll probably end up selling it rather than re-engineering it, but yeah. Now you can also track how much salvage you have down here in the assets tab. And you know, the thing about salvage is that depending on how much stuff you're trying to re-engineer, you burn through this stuff really quickly. So it is, you know, you might think you have enough salvage for whatever re-engineering projects that you have going on right now, but trust me, it's never enough. So there are some things you can do to help grind out salvage. Mainly, the thing I mainly like to do is there are 3 different patrols in the game that I like to just grind out for the sake of their ability to net me a good amount of gear. Okay, apparently this bridge just does not count as a social zone. That is really weird. So okay, whatever. Okay, so there are 3 patrols that I like. The first one, Trouble Over Tur, is really good. What's the other ones? Ninth Rule and Rescue and Search. All of these are patrols that have multiple waves of enemies that just continually respawn over and over again. And what you want to do is just go in there and kill them very quickly. So the thing I like about these patrols is that they have a section in them, mainly after that opening part, is where just a bunch of different enemies will just warp in repeatedly. And you can kill these guys really easily with any sort of like multi-targeting build. Like I'm just running a broadside fire at will build that I like on this build, but you know, scatter volley would work too, torpedo build would work. EPG would work, you know, anything that isn't like single target. You just sit here and farm these guys, and the faster you kill them, the more likely they will drop loot, and that loot can often be salvaged. There, now that I am at the end of the patrol, the waves have stopped. Now look at all this gear that has been left behind. So now we just sit here and gather it all up. Not all of it is going to be salvageable. Some of it's going to be like infinity lockboxes or you know, components for repairing stuff, or entertainment provisions, batteries, or even other tech upgrades that can also be craftable. Those do also have a chance to drop as normal loot. But as you can see, I'm also picking up some normal gear, and this gear can be salvaged. So playing these types of patrols that have these repeated waves of enemies flying in, you know, if you can kill them fairly quickly, they have a high chance to drop a lot of loot. So this is a good way of farming salvage for when you need to re-engineer a bunch of crap. And again, if you want to just take care of all that real quickly, you just go down to upgrade/salvage, go over to salvage, and then you can just salvage all of it right away with the click of just that button. Just remember, make sure that you have protected status on anything in your inventory that you don't want salvaged. Otherwise, it will just disappear, and once something is salvaged, there is no getting it back. It is gone forever because it has been turned into salvage. You can also do it like one at a time. You can just right-click salvage, but I mean that takes time. That's gonna take forever to do it all at once. So yeah, there's a good reason why this is here. Just, you know, be careful. Be sure to always use protection, guys. That's, you know, that's a basic rule in life that I feel like you're all old enough to know at this point. So yeah, those are the basics for crafting, upgrading, and re-engineering gear in Star Trek Online. If you found this guide helpful, be sure to hit that like button and comment down below, and of course don't forget to subscribe for more videos. If you'd like to further support the channel, you can hit that join button to become a member, or you can check out the merch store, or use the affiliate link STU1701 on the Epic Game Store if you're ever shopping over there. Either way though, thank you so much for watching. My name's Stu, and I will see you guys next time.